People who knew murderers, when did you know something was off? My BO dad ended up murdering my stepmom. Everyone in my family, my mom and 2 older brothers definitely knew that something was up. He had severe anger issues and was very abusive. Some of the earlier memories I have are of him choking one of my brothers. He even almost choked my mom to death a couple of times. Obviously my mom was smart and divorced him as he didn't want to see him kill my brothers. Years later I come home from school and my mom and stepdad take us all to the side and tell us he shot our stepmom and was currently in jail. None of us were surprised. If anything, I was just so grateful my mom left him. It's so strange that I'm directly related to a murderer. The murderer I know was more of an acquaintance or casual friend. He lived down the hall from me and we hung out sometimes, but not like just the 2 of us. Still, we chill at each other's place regularly. I passed him one day in the stairwell and I said hi. He said hi back, but called me by the wrong name. He was really distracted and kind of awkward. He didn't make eye contact and kept moving. I remember thinking maybe we don't know each other as well as I thought. Later he was playing Nintendo. Yep, my N64. This was a while ago with my roommate. When I came home, he apologized and said his mind was elsewhere. A couple days later there are cops all over the building, interviewing people and searching his place. They'd found the guy's roommate with a bullet in the back of his head in an abandoned lot across town. The next day he confessed. Never. He was a seemingly happy kid who brought a backpack full of, probably stolen, SNES games over to my place pretty regularly. The last time I posted this, I said he killed another teen in a drug-related turf war. I looked up his case afterwards, and it was actually 2. A great uncle shot one of my great uncles for trying to fondle or rape another family member. Turns out everybody was tired of his crap, so the killing was never reported. Nobody quite knows where the body is buried, but my guess is that he threw it into the river. We were a dictatorship at the time, so seeing bodies flushed down the river was not uncommon. Had an employee on my work crew, acted strange and wouldn't listen to direction. Had goofy huge sideburns. Ended up going to jail for a short time. When he got out he shot his GF and her parents. I worked at a box store about 20 years ago. A guy I worked with was always off and would give away pocket knives to other employees. One day he came in with scratches all over his face. He had raped and murdered a disabled girl the day before, using a pocket knife he had given our co-worker later that day. I moved to a new town when I was 19 and was making new friends at my new job. I met this girl at work and she invited me over to hang out with her and her best friend. I went and the best friend's boyfriend was there and the vibes were way off. I was uncomfortable. He was cold and just seemed angry for no reason. They had mentioned to me before he got there that he was always controlling and had hit the girl before. Turns out controlling was an understatement. She came home one day and he was digging a hole in the backyard and she asked what he was doing and he replied, digging your grave. He hit her, said if he can't have her, nobody could have her, all of that. So eventually she left him and had to get a restraining order and everything. He somehow persuaded her to get in a car with him on her work break and they went missing for a few days. Turns out he stabbed her to death, threw her in a river and killed himself. I met the girl only a few times and him only the once, but the face that I was in such close proximity to someone capable of that gives me chills. She was so young, it was really sad. Honestly, this girl I went to school with killed 2 kids she babysat and their mother. Before that, I would have told you she was one of the calmest, coolest people in our school. Would have never suspected her to do something like that. The first time I met him, Jose was a friend of my ex and something immediately seemed off. He was sneaky, always lying and cheating, but not good at it cause he was dumb, and a total narcissist as well. I told my ex to keep his distance, that Jose would only get him into some crap. Not only did he set my ex up to be robbed, Jose snitched on a bunch of other people, and finally snapped on stranger in a fit of roid rage and stabbed him. The guy he killed was fairly young and a good kid, just in the wrong place at the time. I hope that asshole rots in prison. Edited to clear up any confusion. When he said there was a teenager, his mother and his stepfather lived around the corner from me. My mother knew them better than myself, but we all thought they were lovely. A couple of years ago the son went to the hospital several times asking for help. He claimed he had voices telling him to kill his stepfather, but each time he went he was released and told to come back. They would give an appointment. A few weeks later during a small argument he stabbed his stepfather to death in the front garden. He turned himself in the next day and wasn't convicted as he sought help before it happened. Instead, he got the treatment he needed. I worked with someone that killed someone in self-defense. I didn't believe his story, which is probably why he served time for the incident. The story he told was that he was having shreks with some girl and her husband came home and found them and immediately attacked him. He said he didn't want to fight him, but killed him in self-defense. Some months after we hired him, we got word that he also had some child molestation in his criminal record. Once that word spread around he disappeared. He had stolen some stuff from coworkers before he left. 2 weeks later he was robbed and killed outside a bar near work. Kid I went to school with from 5th to 8th grade. He was always a pages. Typical class clown, but with a mean streak. When we hit middle school he was always making comments about / to girls that were incredibly inappropriate. I never liked him and hated being around him. He ended up getting into meth and shot his mom and dad in their sleep while high. His mom died and his dad survived but was severely injured. Last I heard he was crying crocodile tears saying he regrets everything and wants another chance. But knowing him, it's total bullcrap. He deserves to rot. I didn't. He was the sweetest, kindest, gentle giant kind of guy. Kind of a weirdo, but still a great guy overall. I remember once that he shed a tear just by talking about his kid because he was so filled with emotion from having him in his life. He turned out to kill his wife, kidnap his child, start the longest Amber Alert in the history of Canada. As he tried escaping to a different province he killed another man to steal his car. I'm still unsure today if I should have seen anything at any point. It comes to haunt my nightmares from time to time. I've worked with 3 murderers in my job role supporting people with disabilities. All 3 had varying degrees of learning disabilities, and honestly, only for one of them did I know something was up. He worked out a plea deal as his disability meant that he appeared to lack mens rea and fitness to plead. It was as I was taking him home after all of the investigation was over. He turned to me and said, "Don't tell my wife about this." It was at that exact moment I knew he knew what he'd done. The other 2 incidents, one was so traumatized by what she'd done that she never recovered. She'd been in prison for 25 years and was broken when she came out. The last was a couple. Another vulnerable adult had gone missing. They even helped with the search teams. They were in bits, really concerned for the welfare of their friend. Went on TV for an appeal for her to come home. She was under their bed the whole time. Edits. Tried to clarify the wording a bit. I wrote it a bit too hastily and caused some confusion below. Interesting that no one has asked about the second one. She was a literal axe murderer. She came home one day and found that her father had murdered her mother. She grabbed a nearby wood cutting axe and beheaded him. She got out early due to the mitigating circumstances and time served. She developed terrible schizophrenia after that, hence my involvement upon her release. She ended up going into a secure mental health unit as she couldn't cope on the outside. She was badly institutionalized. Not my experience, but my grandmother's. She got pregnant at 15 by my grandfather and had to get married. 1960s. He was extremely abusive and my grandmother went to the police multiple times because she felt like he would wind up killing someone, but they just didn't take it seriously and ignored her. He later went on to strangle and beat a 14-year-old girl to death with a baseball bat just a couple years later. It probably doesn't actually count, but I want to tell someone about this anyway. We, partner and I, had some neighbors moving across the street, a young couple in their 30s. The guy would come over almost every day to chat with my partner. My partner told me he would say things about being raped by his brother as a kid and that people didn't care about him. His wife was weird. She just sat on the porch not talking to anyone or doing anything. Just sitting there. All I knew about her was she didn't have custody of her kids. A few months ago, our street was filled with cop cars and ambulances. Being the nosy cunts we are, we just watched out the window for hours as cops busted down the door, fricked with the couple's lawnmower, and eventually we watched as 2 body bags were loaded up into a vehicle right in front of our house. Turned out they'd killed themselves, or I guess one killed both of them with consent. They turned the lawnmower on in their house and died from the fumes. Their dog died too. My partner and I felt so bad for them because the landlord dumped their stuff into the street the day after and only one person came by grieving. We also felt angry at them for killing their dog. I tried finding the obituaries but couldn't. Months after this happened, I was on Reddit and saw a video, unrelated, of a man beating the crap out of a registered Shrek's offender who was talking to his daughter. I went to Family Watchdog just to see, and guess whose mugshot came up? It was her, the wife. And she had a different last name than I thought she did, so I googled her name to see if she got an obituary. She did. There was also a news article about how she and her ex-husband raped all 3 of their own kids and only spent 4 years in jail. The man who did it with her is still out there somewhere. I knew she was weird, but damn, we didn't feel as bad for them anymore. So yeah, that was an emotional roller coaster. That's it for now. Thank you for watching the video. Leave your comments below. See you soon.